My fiance is a ghost, but I am still in love with him. Usually, when I'm going to town or when I'm going to work, I order for Uber. So, on this fateful day, when I ordered for Uber, the Uber driver that came was a female. Though I have heard of female Uber drivers, I have not had the opportunity to be driven by one. So, I was pleasantly surprised that I was going to be driven by an Uber driver. And most of the time, when I order for Uber, I sit at the back. But because this lady was a female, I decided to sit by her in the front. So, right from the time that she started the journey, we talked about every single thing, from fashion to politics to religion to children to virtually everything that we could ever think of. So this lady went on to tell me that at the time of meeting her, she's been in my country for about 6 months, and she went on to say that sometimes she feels really, really lonely. So if I wouldn't mind, she would send my number and then call me sometimes so that we go hang out. I told her that that wouldn't be a problem because I was happy to see a young lady who is trying so hard to make life for herself in my country. She went on to tell me that she came to my country about 6 months ago with her brother and her brother's friend. So a week after I had met her, she called to tell me that she would like to hang out with me on a Friday. On that particular Friday, I was free, so I decided to go out with her. We went to a very comfortable, open place, and we had so much fun. We ate, we drank, we listened to music, and we danced. In fact, I've not had fun in such a long time. She was such a beautiful and an amazing company. After that particular night, we went out again a few times, and her company, together with her brother and her brother's friend, of course, was still amazing. These people became more or less like my new friends or my new family that I have discovered in my country. We've become so close, and then from time to time she'll call me and we'll go out and have fun. So after 3 months of knowing this lady and her brother and her brother's friend, her brother called me one day to tell me that he was interested in me and liked to go out with me. At the time, I wasn't in a relationship, so I decided to give it a try. Oh my God, this gentleman was everything that most ladies will ever wish to have in their life. He was so caring, he was so sweet. He'll buy me gifts from time to time. We'll go out, and he made me feel so comfortable each time that I am in his company. 6 months into the relationship, he told me that he liked me that much and would like to take the relationship to the next level. I told him to relax because I felt 6 months was too short a time. He said, why not? Because if you like someone that much, time isn't really not an issue, or the number of months that you've dated the person is really not an issue. So he told me to inform my parents so that he comes with his people to come and see my family in order to start the formalities towards marriage. I told my family about it, and then they scheduled the time for him and his family to come in and meet my people. Now, a little backstory. When I started dating this guy, anytime I visited him, he would either call his mom or his parents, and all I could say was hi or hello, because according to him, his parents could not speak English, and I could also not speak their native language. So all I would say is hi or hello, and the communication ends there. A few times he even made a video call, and I saw a man and a woman in the video whom he told me were his parents. And of course, because of communication challenge, all I will say is hi, hello, and he will continue with the communication, or we'll continue the call with them. So indeed, I met his parents, or he introduced his parents to me, and his parents also met me via video call while we were dating. Now, he decided to come and perform the marriage rite. He told me that his landlady and his landlord will step in for him as his parents, since his biological parents are not here with him. So indeed, when he was coming, he came with his sister, his friend, the landlady, and of course the landlord, and they came to perform the necessary rites. He, however, promised me that when it is time for the engagement, he'll try as much as possible to bring his parents down together with some elders in order to perform the rest of the rites, which I agreed. So right after the knocking, I was so excited that I decided to post some of the pictures that we took during the introduction. And Jesus Christ, that is where the entire story changed. After they had come to do the introduction, I was so happy that I was almost officially off the market. So I decided to post some of the videos on social media, specifically TikTok. And after posting the videos and some of the pictures in less than 4 hours, two ladies came into my DM and they were asking questions as to who that gentleman was. Initially, I ignored them because I didn't know why they were asking questions as to who he was. But in less than 24 hours, a lot of messages came in from different places. This time the tone of the messages sound so strange. They were kept asking, who was this gentleman to you? How did you get to know him? How did you come by his photos and his videos? At this moment, I decided to pay attention as to why they were asking me those questions. So I told the ladies who sent the earlier messages that the gentleman in question was my fiancé and I was engaged to be married to him. And oh my God, it was at this moment that I realized that something wasn't right. So one of the ladies sent a message telling me that the gentleman in question was his biological brother, in fact his elder brother, and he died 3 years earlier. He died in an accident with his sister and another friend when they were going for a party. My goodness. Upon hearing this, I went completely crazy. It felt as though I was in a movie. It felt as though it was a fairy tale. It felt as though I was dreaming and I wanted to wake up from that dream. But my goodness, this was reality. Immediately, I called my mom, I called my dad, and I told them what I had discovered. Now, later on, so I got in touch with the lady again and told her that if it is indeed true that the gentleman in question was dead, I needed clarifications, I needed evidence, I needed something to show that this information was indeed true. And after 3 days, she sent me messages and videos and photos of their grave, videos of their funerals, so many evidence to show that indeed this gentleman was dead. Oh my God. I was dead inside. At this point, I was completely dead inside. But I told her to do me another favor. I told her to get me photos or videos of their parents just to cross-check just to make sure that it was the same people that I saw during his video calls. And when she sent the videos and photos of their parents, oh my goodness, they were the same people that I saw during his video calls. So I didn't know what to do at this point. I didn't know what to do. All this while, I have decided not to ask him any questions as to what I have discovered. My parents said I shouldn't ask him anything yet because they wanted to cross-check from his sister or his supposed sister as to what happened to him and why this was happening. So we did a lot of investigation through this lady who contacted me on the internet. Now, a little backstory. While all of this was happening, I was not in the capital with him because my company has sent me on an assignment to another region. So I was there for 3 good weeks. So while I was there, I was still communicating with him. We're still calling each other. We're still sending messages, but I had not told him anything as to what I have discovered. Then when I finally came to the capital, my family decided that we should sit together and see how to go about this. Now, my mom, my dad, and together with some elders decided that we should call him and ask him if he could come over to see them. So he was invited to a family meeting, and then they revealed to him what they had discovered, or my family revealed to him what they had discovered. He completely denied it. He said it was flesh and blood, and none of those things was true. So that kind of puts my heart at ease. Then I was wondering, is it that he looked like somebody? So I went back to the lady who sent me the messages earlier, and I told her the new revelation. She was also completely confused. But after 24 hours of having that meeting with him, his phone completely went off. Mind you, we speak like 3-4 times in a day. So when his phone went off, I was wondering what could be the problem. I called him several times during the day and his phone was off. So I decided to call his sister. Interestingly, his sister's phone was off. I went ahead to call his friend's phone, and then his phone was also off. At this moment, I began to get scared and be afraid, and a lot of thoughts were going through my mind. So I decided to go and visit him. In fact, I went there with my mom and my dad. And when we got to his house, we met the gatekeeper or the security man. And the security man had told us that he had packed out the day before, and the reason he gave was that he was going to a bigger apartment because he was planning to get married. So I asked the security man if I could go inside and check. And when I got into his apartment, everything was gone. His bed was gone, his fridge was gone, the furniture was gone, everything in his wardrobe was completely gone. I went ahead to check his sister's room because he shares the apartment with his sister, and everything in his sister's room was completely gone. At this point, I didn't know what to do. Now, it has been over 2 months and his phones are still switched off. His sister's phone is still switched off, and that of his friend's phone is still switched off. And the scariest thing is that I discovered a few weeks ago that I am pregnant for this guy. I am completely shattered. I don't know what to do. I've been hearing stories. I hear a lot of stories in the movies and on television, on the radio, about people who died and go to another place to remarry. But I thought those are just movies. I thought such stories are just fairy tales and they don't happen. And I couldn't believe that this is happening to me in 2024. And the question I keep asking is, why would this guy choose me? I'm a good person. I live my life in a very good way. I try as much as possible not to hurt people or step on people's toes. So why would this gentleman choose me? What did I do to deserve this? Now the question I've been asking myself is, what do I do with this baby? Now there's a big confusion in my family. One part is saying that I should just completely forget about this guy and move on with my life. Another group says I should pursue the case. I should go to their country with the help of the lady who contacted me so that I'll find answers to my questions as to why he came, whether it is indeed true that he is dead. Should I pursue it or should I completely forget about it? What do I do? I am completely worried. I am completely confused. I am completely confused. What do I do? So after pondering all over this for a very long time, I decided that I'd like to find out more about who this man was, get to know his parents, and get to see his grave for myself, because the whole story was eating me up psychologically. So I decided to take a break from work in order to organize my thoughts properly. All this while, my parents have been very supportive, and my mom came over to stay with me in order to take care of me properly since I was not living with them. Now, let me take you back a little. The people I called my parents are not my biological parents, but I chose to call them my parent because of how well they took care of me and my brother. My mom and my dad were involved in a terrible accident, and unfortunately, my mom lost her life in that accident. My dad, however, survived the accident, but he had both of his legs amputated when my brother was only 17 years old and I was only 14 years old at the time. Unfortunately, my dad also passed on 6 years after that. Before my dad passed away, he had a lot of businesses, and he told my uncle to be in charge of the businesses since my brother and I were still very young and we knew very little about how to run all those businesses. Now, after the death of my dad, my uncle and his wife took very good care of us. I won't even lie about this. We lived a very comfortable life, but one thing I never got the courage to do was to learn how to drive because of the trauma I got from the car accidents my parents had. So I always rely on Uber, my personal driver, and other people to drive me anytime that I was going to town. Unfortunately, a few weeks to my brother's 30th birthday, he complained of a stomach ache and he died suddenly. In fact, I was distraught and my whole world was torn apart because he was my only sibling. Fortunately, my uncle and his wife gave me the biggest support ever during those difficult times. And though I have not still forgotten about my brother's death, their presence, love, and support helped me to go through the pain. So I was so happy that my uncle and his wife, whom I called my parents, are giving me all the care and support during my own difficult moments. So after a month of pondering over my supposed ghost fears, I decided to visit my uncle and his wife to tell them that I'd like to go to visit my supposed ghost fears country in order to find out more about him. And when I got to the house, I got the shock of my life. When I got to the living room, which happens to be downstairs, I overheard a shout upstairs, which happened to be coming from my uncle and my auntie's room. They were in a heated argument, so I decided to run upstairs to separate whatever they could be fighting over because, mind you, these two people literally raised me until I became an adult. And all these years of living with them, I have never seen them argue like that before. But when I got closer to their room, I overheard them mention my name repeatedly. And my uncle's wife said, why didn't those guys do such a simple job by getting rid of a simple girl? At this point, I paused and stood behind the door to listen to what they were talking about or what was going on. And it was so easy and so clear to hear what they were talking about because they were literally shouting at each other, and their daughter, who happened to be in the room with them, was asking them to stop. So long story short, my supposed fiancé is not dead. Everything was planned by my uncle and his wife and their daughter. Apparently, my supposed fiancé, his supposed sister, and his supposed friend were all hired to get into my life in order to unlife me or to get rid of me so that my uncle and his wife could take over my father's property. Now, according to what I have heard, the guy that they chose to do the job or to unlife me or to get rid of me, which happened to be my supposed fiancé, could not do the job because at a point he fell in love with me and he had wanted to come into my life for real. My uncle and his wife had to force him to leave immediately because at this point, my uncle and his wife were threatening to unlife him or to get rid of him and his people if they did not go back to where they came from. So it means that all the videos and all the photos of their supposed grave and funerals were all fake. So when they realized that the guy couldn't perform the assignment, they had to come up with a plan to make me believe that he was a ghost so that I don't look for him. And they also wanted me to believe that everything happening around me was not physical but spiritual. It's now dawned on me why my uncle's wife persistently and continuously told me to forget about this guy and move on with my life. So I guess even my marriage introduction was also fake. Then it's now dawned on me again that the day that I met that female driver, it was my niece who came to my place and on her own accord offered to offer me or order a ride for me, since my personal driver was out of town. So technically, everything was planned. Then, as I dug deeper, I discovered that the lady who contacted me online was my niece using a fake account, and my supposed fiancé parents that I saw during the video calls were all part of the plan. After hearing all this information and more, I tiptoed slowly and left the house. Now, my uncle and his wife didn't know I am aware of their evil plans, so I am extremely careful about them, though I live in so much fear now. Now, I am afraid that if I report them to the police, they will be set free since I don't have any evidence against them. And that will even put my life in danger much more. And there are a series of questions that are going through my mind. One of them is that since I now know that the man who impregnated me is not dead, but has suddenly disappeared, how and where do I find him? Should I even bother to look for him? Another thing that is bothering me is, how do I protect myself from my uncle and his wife now that I know of their evil plans? Another thing that I wish I could tell my uncle and his wife is that I don't really care about my father's property, and they could virtually have everything that my father had so that I can live a peaceful and a normal life. How do I protect myself from these people in order to live a normal life?